Hello and welcome to the journal. Today we are in the Western Wall tunnels. The Western Wall tunnels, located beneath Jerusalem's old city, reveal a world of wonder and mystery alongside one of the most sacred sites in Judaism.
We're good. All right, let's go in. Come. I'll quickly tell you that we're going to go on what's considered to be the newer tour, not the 30-year-old classic tour. The new tour is called the Great Bridge Tour. It opened up just over a year ago, Chanukah. They're heading towards the wall. We're going to take a left over here into the new tour. Okay, we're standing not far from a very famous mountain called Mount Moriah, which is located about 100 meters to the east of us. A mountain you cannot see today. You can't see it because there's a big structure built on top of the mountain, the Temple Mount. We'll say something about that in a moment. According to Jewish tradition, the peak of the mountain is the spiritual center of the earth. Many people are familiar with famous biblical stories associated with the peak of the mountain. The most famous story, of course, is the binding of Isaac. Our story, or should I say the story of Jerusalem as an Israeli capital, begins 3,000 years ago when King David built his city on the southern slopes of the mountain. Today, this area is a tourist center called the City of David. King David also wanted to build at the top of the mountain a permanent house of prayer, but he couldn't. He was a man of war. He killed people. He has blood on his hands. Not the right guy for the job. Who is? His son, Solomon, which in Hebrew is pronounced Shlomo, which means peace. The king of peace, 3,000 years ago, built the first temple. This first temple stood here for about 400 years, and that means 2,600 years ago, the Babylonians, under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar, conquered the city, destroy the first temple, banish the Jews into exile. A short time passes, a few years, and a Persian king named Cyrus allows the Jews to come back and rebuild the second temple. 70 years, that's it. 70 years after the destruction of the first temple, the Jews complete building the second one. And this means that the elderly, the seniors, those who were 80, 90 years old, when they saw the second temple finally built, you would think they would be happy, right? They weren't. They cried. Why? They remembered when they were children, they saw the first temple. It was much more impressive.
Right.
The second temple that was built here was built by the poor people who came back from Babylon.
70 years after.
Yeah. So it's not as beautiful. If you open the Bible, you'll see a story about a prophet living during those days. His name was Haggai. And he tries to comfort the people. He tells them, don't worry. Eventually, this second temple is going to be even more splendid, more glorious than the first one. Okay? He forgot to mention a very important detail. Okay? It's not going to happen in their lifetime. So but what he doesn't tell them that they're not going to get a chance to see it. It's not going to happen in their lifetime. When does it happen? Let's tell the story of the Western Wall. You just saw a moment ago outside. 2,000 years ago, towards the end of the Second Temple era, a famous king comes into power here. His name's Herod. And he's the representative of the Roman Empire, and he wants to appear as a kind... No, he didn't really care about that. He wants the Jews living here not to rebel against him, okay? Now, what could King Herod do for the Jews to appease them? Take the small temple that you see on the screen now, look at it, because he takes that small thing and turns it into that. That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah. And the white part that you see lighting up now, that's the Western Wall you see outside today. About 10% out of the entire actual wall. How big is the original Temple Mount? 250 meters by 500 meters. You could fit in there close to 25 soccer fields. And you'll also notice all along the Temple Mount, at the bottom, there's a street.
Right.
This used to be the main marketplace of the city. All along the street, you need to imagine shops, 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 shops. I like calling it the original Wall Street. Mm-hmm. It doesn't last for long. Why? In the year 70, almost 2,000 years ago, a Roman general named Titus conquers the city. And what does he do to the temple? Take a look again up there. He destroys it. Jerusalem goes up in flames, the city burns, the temple is destroyed. 1,300 years ago, the Muslims come here. They sanctify the city to the Islam and build a famous structure you all see outside today, the Golden Dome, the Dome of the Rock.
Right.
800 years ago, the Mamluks came here. They were also devoted Muslims, and they don't want to live down here in the valley and climb up to the mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, 5 times a day like a yo-yo. They fill in the entire valley with a system of arches and vaults. Above the system, they built their street, they built their houses. They create what we call today the Muslim quarter in the old city. You could see the Muslim quarter today covers most of the wall, right? Actually, just a few years ago, the whole wall was covered. Why is it we have a portion outside that's not covered by houses today? Because 55 years ago, that's it, after the 6-day war, Jerusalem's municipality removed some of the houses. Take a look at the houses. They remove the houses and they create what we know today as the plaza. Now, to understand the tour, we're about to go down. We're going to zoom out. Okay, something's about to change on the screen. Take a look. Did you see that street being added? Let's do it again just to make sure. That street is above our heads right now. It's one of the markets in the Muslim quarter. People are walking above us.
Right.
This street does reach one of the entrances to the Temple Mount. But 2,000 years ago, this street used to be a bridge. Hence the Great Bridge Tour. Alongside the bridge, you could see a structure. We're going to zoom in. We are standing exactly where the circle is pointing. Underneath that arch, above our heads, there is an arch. Okay? We're in that arch. And what we're going to do is go down into this structure and walk through a few of its rooms. And I'll tell you the story once we're down there. Who built the structure, who used it, what was the purpose, the whole spiel down there. The last thing I want to show you is what we're going to be walking. So we're going to be walking along the green line. Pretty much, we will reach eventually the Western Wall, places of the Western Wall that have been exposed just recently. Coming back, we'll be walking from behind you over there, so it's pretty much a round trip. And that's 3,000 years in 10 minutes. Slowly walking down. The Second Temple period began when Cyrus, the Persian king, allows the Jews to come back. By the way, the Bible refers to Cyrus as a Messiah. And you probably know that every empire in world's history has an expiration date. 2,300 years ago, 2,300 years ago, a new actor is going to step on the world stage. Okay, he's going to conquer the world in a storm. His name is Alexander of Macedonia. Bye-bye Persians, hello Greeks. And you should know both the Persians and the Greeks, most of the time, were kind of cool to the Jewish people. That changed 2,200 years ago when a Greek ruler named Antioch IV Epiphanes comes to power, decrees against Jewish tradition. Jews find themselves with their back against the wall, and they decide to rebel. Okay? This is one of those rare instances when the Jews rebelled and succeeded. Most of the time when we tried that, it didn't really work for us. Until today, we celebrate the famous holiday of Hanukkah, commemorating those events. The Hasmonean family that led the rebellion, after beating the Greeks, purifying the temple, they developed the city. They are the first ones to establish over here a massive bridge connecting the different parts of the expanding city. And the reason I'm telling you is because this arch over here and this arch over here are the original foundations of that bridge. These are 2,200-year-old vaults. Okay? And if you take a few steps away from the vaults and get a glimpse of both of them at the same time, you will notice there's a certain difference between the two. What is the difference? The height. The left one is shorter, the right one is taller. I'm going to tell you a secret. The next one to the right is a bit taller. The next one, even taller. Meaning, When this bridge was originally built, it wasn't a bridge, it was a ramp. King Herod is going to take this ramp and turn it into a bridge. Why? We'll talk about that in our next stop. Speaking about King Herod, this is a Herodian wall, 2,000 years old. This is a corner. The wall here continued and covered the bridge. And on the other side, we could see another wall, 2,000 years old. We are missing the fourth side, and we will dig in the future. Behind this Roman wall, we might find the fourth wall. I say might because I don't have X-ray vision. And the last thing, these stairs here are leading down into a space which I won't tell you what it is just yet. Keep you a little bit in suspense. After we go into the next room and I'll show you something, we're going to connect the dots. We will understand what this space underneath us is. Are there any questions till now?
No, I was curious about this.
So I'm going to tell you what this is in a second.
Awesome.
Ah, it's a good question. All right. So, all right, take a look. I am standing right now on a 2,000-year-old floor. I will tell you something about this floor in a moment, but for now, look a little bit up and notice that I am touching over here a shelf. Okay, this shelf decorated the room we were in and the room we're going into. And on this shelf, you could see the bases of columns. Okay? Truth be told, these columns here are not really columns. Okay? Why? Because the purpose of a column is to support, to hold. This is decorative. I'm going to light it up for the camera. Okay? Okay, here are the columns, and what makes these columns special is the capital stone. The capital stone is a unique signature of King Herod. Not round capital stones, like all around the Roman Empire, but square capital stone. This is Herod. The joke about Herod, if he wasn't alive, us guides in Jerusalem, we would be unemployed. He leaves his mark on the city like no any other king before and after him. What makes these capital stones unique and special, every one of them has a hole. I don't know if you have a zoom in function, or is it worth it to even zoom into the hole, okay?
Yeah.
But there is a hole up there in the middle of the capital stone. That hole goes through the wall. The wall here is 2.5 meters thick. The hole goes through. On the other side of this wall, okay, can't see because it's dark, but 2,000 years ago, there used to be a water cistern. Where did the water come from? The bridge.
Right.
Now we understand why Herod takes the ramp and turns it into a bridge, because water can't climb up. But once you make a straight bridge, you can have an aqueduct. But where did the water originate? More than 20 kilometers south of Jerusalem.
Right.
And the water used to flow through aqueducts. You could come close and shine it. Okay, I don't think it opens. But this is a water cistern, a 2,000-year-old water cistern. Okay? The water used to flow through the aqueduct and end on the bridge. Some of the water flowed into the temple, but some of the water came from the bridge down into this water cistern, fill it up, and when water level would reach the hole, it would spill out. So for the first time in this tour, we'll understand what the purpose of this structure was. Look at the columns. Take a step back. Look at the columns, because you're going to understand perfectly now what people did here. The first thing people did when they came here is shower. Okay? Rinse themselves, clean. And the water, if you look back at the floor, okay, water used to flow where I'm walking, right over here, okay, and into lower level drainage systems, which you could capture. That's not accessible to us. That's accessible only to the archaeologists. Maybe one day. And eventually the water flowed out of the city. Went down here and out of the city. The next thing, after rinsing themselves, they emotionally clean themselves. I like calling this step 1, physical cleaning. Step 2 is emotional cleaning, to relax before going to the temple. Remember the stairs? That's a relaxation bath.
Right.
There was also a bath here underneath this modern floor. These two rooms are identical in size, shape, and decorative elements. Okay? And this big stone leaning against the wall, we found many in Jerusalem. We know what these stones are. These are safe guardrails to prevent people from falling in the water. Where did we find this stone? You see one side is round and one side is... By the way, our policy over here is, if you could pick it up, you could take it home. Where did we find the stone? Take a look. Remember the shape, round and straight. Come here, I want to show you. Come here. Look at the wall, and notice inside the wall there's an indentation.
Right.
One side is round, so the stone is here.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if the stone reached here, here, or here. I don't know where it ended. I know the stone did not reach the wall. There's no indentation. Similar to the room we were in before, stairs going down. You asked me, what are these stairs? There were stairs here as well. And there are two baths on both sides. You clean yourself physically in this room, then you choose which side you want to go to. Go into a bath, relax. Right. After that, you're ready for the last step, spiritual cleaning. I will show you the purification bath on the other side of this wall, but before that I want to ask you, why is there a double doorway in and out? Because pure and impure should not be touching each other. If they do, COVID. No. Impurity is contagious. Right. Okay? Should not be touching each other. Now, we said that this structure that we're in was built during the time of King Herod. We now know what it was used for, preparation for going up to the temple. But who used it? Probably the richest people in the city. The amount of effort that was poured into this structure suggests that we're not talking about the common people. And I want you to imagine that the walls over here were not in this brownish, beigey, Indiana Jonesy color. It was white and blue and red. So before we move on, let me quickly tell you how the story ends. The people used this structure for a short time after it was built. It was destroyed twice, not long after they finished building it. The first time it was destroyed was natural, an earthquake. If you look at the doorway right over here, okay, at the top you'll notice that the lintel has a crack.
Right.
That's a 2,000-year-old earthquake. After the earthquake, there's going to be another destruction, this time man-made, the Romans. And this room becomes decommissioned. Let's go see the purification bath. Awesome. All right, take a look over here. This rectangular shaped bath is a purification bath. And that means back in the day it was filled with water. Where did the water come from? The bridge. Behind this white wall, there are two more arches much higher up, and in between there's a gutter for water to come down. Okay? What makes a purification bath special, not just a regular bath? The water coming in it comes from a natural source like rain, river, a spring. You can't have someone taking buckets and pouring it in. That's not good. You have to connect it to a natural source. We are standing underneath one arch before the last one. The next one, reaching the western wall, we won't see it from the tunnels. After, when you go outside to the plaza, you will have an option to go down to the men's side and turn left into the indoor part. And eventually you'll find yourselves underneath that last arch. Okay? I will tell you one last thing. We can't see it from here, sadly, but there's another 2,000-year-old bath on the other side of this wall over here. Pointless to film it because you can't see it, but it has water. It has water. Really? And I'm so sad I can't. This white wall was put here a week ago. Oh. A week ago.
We missed the...
Yes. And it's not going to stay here for long, but they're in some construction.
Will it come again?
Yeah, so I'm so sorry.
No worries.
But it's really cool to see it because it's water. It's clean water. It's not sterile water. I tell people don't drink from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. And it doesn't come from the bridge. It comes from rainwater that seeps through the Muslim quarter. Come. We're going to see the western wall now. Wow. Welcome back to the western wall. The same western wall you see outside This is the continuation. We're standing a little bit lower. And that means we're standing underneath the plaza, the men's side of the plaza, the indoor part of the men's side of the plaza. And I quickly want to show you how big the last arch in the bridge is. So we see the western wall in front of us. If you look behind us, there's another wall. That's the distance that the arch has to go. The reason the last arch is so big relative to all the rest is because the marketplace is below us. And the builders didn't want to stick a pillar in the middle of the market for people to bump into. So they built one massive arch going underneath. Now, 10 years ago, this entire room, this entire space was filled with dirt. You see that wall over there?
Yes.
That wall is not really a wall. That's dirt we have not dug yet. Imagine that brown stuff filling up this entire area.
Wow.
And 10 years ago, the engineers installed these cement beams to support the plaza. Once everything was stable, they started removing the dirt, bucket by bucket. One of the things they found, which they did not expect, but truth be told, not really surprising, is this half a circle beneath us. Okay? Before I tell you what this half a circle is, very important to notice one more thing, and that is that every stone in the western wall has a frame chiseled around it. Here's the story. We could walk and talk as we do it. In the year 70, when Titus destroyed the temple, as a general in the army, he realizes that also the Temple Mount surrounding the temple has some symbolic value to the Jewish people, to their pride, to their morale, to their self-esteem. And he wants to break the Jewish people not only physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. Imagine Roman soldiers standing way above us on the Temple Mount floor, pushing western wall stones from the wall down to the street below us. Stone after stone, row after row. They come crashing down, exploding on impact, piling up. Okay? 60 years later, the Jews rebel against the Romans again. This time it's going to be called the Bar Kokhba Rebellion. Again, not successful. And Caesar Hadrian is sick and tired that the Jewish people are rebelling against the Romans every few years. He decides, new law, Jews in Jerusalem are not allowed anymore. All Jews are kicked out. Okay? He decides to establish here in the city an idol-worshipping pagan one. He even changes Jerusalem's name. Not Jerusalem anymore. A new name, a Roman name. Ilia Capitolina. He changes the name of Israel to Palestina. So it's no surprise to find here structures from that time. And one example is this half a circle. This half a circle is the bottom part of a theater. Just imagine seats going up towards the wall, seats going up towards us, towards the western wall, and seats going up all the way in the other direction. We have 180 degrees. Between the 200 to 300 people could sit here, okay? See a show, a lecture, some kind of a performance. Some of them, by the way, sitting where we're standing right now, could even lean against the western wall. Okay? Just lean their back. Now the big question is, what material the Caesar Hadrian builders use to construct this theater? The answer is very simple. It's hiding below us. Western wall stones that were knocked down are used to erect this theater. Right over here, underneath us, there is a stone. And you could see something familiar. On the edge, there's a frame. Herod's fingerprint. Titus destroyed the Temple Mount. 60 years later, the Roman builders use these stones to become the support for Roman bottoms. And this is a tragedy. But our sages teach us that even when catastrophe happens, try and look deeper and find the light. There's a silver lining here, okay? When Hadrian is so intense, so urging to kick every Jewish person out of the city and erase Jewish presence, his builders respond simply, we're going to cover everything. You won't have to see Jewish presence here anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, thank God that both Hadrian and his builders weren't archaeologists. When they cover, okay, the thing they actually do is preserve and keep and safekeep. And when we peel off this Roman layer, the theater, underneath we have hundreds of years of Israeli, Jewish, Hebrew culture emerging, okay? Whether it's pottery, whether it's Hebrew texts. Underneath that, hundreds of years of First Temple period Jewish culture, okay? 1,000 years of archaeology just waiting to be unearthed. The theater over here might have incorporated in it water elements. You could have a show with water features because underneath the theater we could see the remainings of a water channel. This is a kind of zoom in to what we did. You might remember we started in one of the arches. We went down, we saw the pool, we saw the showers. Then we went through the double doorway, saw the purification bath, and a moment ago we were standing here where the theater is. Right. We stepped out of the bridge to the northern part. This is the southern part, here. We're standing. And let me explain a little bit about what we're seeing. Anything you see along the model over here, outside of the Temple Mount, is based on archaeology. Whether it's the bridge, the structure, even the street. You can even see the Robinson's Arch. Anything you see on the other side of the wall in the Temple Mount is not based on archaeology because we never conducted archaeological dig. Now, if you ask me, how do you know how things look like? Historical texts. We have many sources describing how things looked like here back in the day. Cross-reference all these sources, you have a pretty good understanding of how things looked like. Now, why is the Western Wall the important wall? The Western Wall is the closest wall to the Holy of Holies, the most inner room in the temple, behind the white wall. Okay? Today, the Western Wall that we see outside today is the orange lights right over here. This is 10% out of the entire actual Western Wall. Now, looking at the white temple in the middle, from this angle that you're seeing it, it seems like someone built the temple crooked on an angle. Okay? There you go. If you do it like that, you suddenly see that the temple is not built straight, but it's kind of like, someone moved it a little bit. But the truth is, the temple is not crooked, because they knew how to measure north, south, east, west perfectly, and when they built the temple, they built it accordingly. The temple's not crooked. What is crooked? All the rest. What? Herod, the perfectionist, builds a crooked Temple Mount? And the answer is yeah, because it doesn't matter how much of a megalomaniac you are, nature is always stronger than man. I'll explain. In the beginning of the tour, we said over here there's a mountain, Mount Moriah. Here, where usually people sit, okay, there's another mountain, Mount Zion. And in between these two mountains, there's a valley. If the Temple Mount was built on the appropriate angle, part of the Western Wall would be penetrating the valley and climbing up the opposite mountain. And that is too much of a hassle for King Herod. What does he do? Changes the angle of the Temple Mount to fit the topography. Okay? What you could see now is how things look like along the Western Wall today. The Muslim quarter covering most of the wall, the prayer plaza, the Davidson Center, Southern Wall excavation. Let's see what we did on the tour today. Look at the Muslim quarter. So I'll show you where we started. We met in the lobby. We walked in. through a corridor and actually started the tour in this room with the big screen. Once we were done with the introduction, we went even deeper. So let's peel another piece off. When we came down to this room, we saw the two arches. Then we saw the rooms with the showers and the water cistern. The third room of the complex that was built alongside the bridge, the purification bath, and the theater. We're now here. Opposite the western wall, look at the wall because the red lights represent the largest stone found in the Temple Mount. This one stone is 13.5 meters long. That is longer than a bus. Its height is 3.5 meters, and the depth inside 4.5 meters. This one stone weighs close to 600 tons. The closest quarry that we have from 2,000 years ago is about 300 meters to the north. How did they cut a stone from there, transport it here, lift it 4 floors above ground level, and place it so accurately? And they didn't do it once. They did it 4 times. We have a total of 4 big stones. But this one is the biggest one. The big question of how is, we don't know. We know what technology they had back then that enabled them to move the smaller stones, which we saw before. There are theories. Each theory has its own problems. We do not have a complete understanding. So to some degree, it's still a mystery. Okay? But there is a story I'd like to tell you about the stone. Okay? And for that, I want you to see the stone. So look at the glass wall in front of us. That group is standing in front. Now you don't see any seams along the stone because it's one stone, which stretches both to the right and to the left. Okay? When Titus destroys the Temple Mount, his soldiers, we said before, knock down stones, and they knock all the stones until they reach the big stone. So anything you see above the stone is later renovation. But when the Romans tried to push the stone, they huff, they puff, they don't blow the house down. Instead of them breaking the stone broke them. They gave up. Left us this unbelievable 2,000-year-old testimony. I want to show you one more thing here. You see the white lights? That's the bedrock. So from top, from bottom to top, 2,000 years ago, 60-something meters, that's like a building 20 floors high. Where is the short part of the wall? Follow the line, and you see that that corner is about 10 meters high. And that means a potential enemy would probably attack from here. This is the strategical soft spot. Herod, he's paranoid. He's not only afraid from a rebellion within, he's also afraid from an invasion. So he built here the famous Antonia fortress with the 4 towers to protect the Temple Mount. The big stone starts here. This is a seam. Remember the frame? Right. And if you go 13.5 meters, you'll get to the other side. Hundreds of years after the city was destroyed, okay, the Romans will rebuild it, okay? They're going to decide to use the western wall as a supporting wall for new structures. So into these holes, they place these beams sticking out. Upon these beams, they build new walls, part of new structures that just lean against the western wall. These new structures are using the stability, the massiveness of this wall in order to lean on it. Okay, remember, this was built 2,000 years ago. Every 100 years in Jerusalem, we have a massive earthquake. Guess what? Has not been knocked down yet, even by massive earthquakes. Still standing. This is the closest you could get to the Holy of Holies. Okay? 90 meters and up, you're underneath the Golden Dome. 90 meters. Where the first and second temple used to stand. When I first saw what I'm about to show you, I thought to myself, who did that? I went to the head archaeologist. I asked him. Told him I was near the place which is opposite the Holy of Holies. I saw something in the wall. I want to know who did it. He said, nobody did it. What do you mean nobody did it? It's a result of earthquakes, of seepage of water, natural decay. I told him, wow, so that's one heck of a coincidence. He said to me, you could call it whatever you want. What am I talking about? Look at my finger. Just look at my finger. Take a certain distance. See where my finger is? You know what? We'll stand here. See where my finger is? Right. Are you ready?
Yeah. Somebody cut it through.
I'm going to show you one more time. Look at the shape I am showing you. What are you looking at? What is this shape?
Israel state. Israel map?
The map of Israel. Cool, huh?
Wow, nice. Go back. Yes.
All right. This is a synagogue that is active during the weekends. Anybody's welcome. Okay? The state of Israel welcomes whoever wants to join the services here. Okay? It's open to the public. During the week, the tours walk through here. Okay? You could see the ark, and opposite, just behind the ark, the western wall. Today, if a woman wants to pray, not in the sun, not in the rain, she can come to the lobby, walk in, say she's going to the women's section. You don't have to purchase a ticket. You don't have to book a tour in advance because you're not joining a tour. You're just going in from the lobby straight to the women's section. You're praying and then out.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is Wilson.
Wilson's Arch is the last arch in the bridge, named after the archaeologist who found it more than 100 years ago. Yeah. If we go through these doors, and we see the Wilson's Arch. Yeah. Come. Take a look above us. It starts here. It goes over to that side. And remember, the wall, the western wall, goes 4 floors deeper. Maybe there's even a window we could look down. We'll see up ahead. And this is still not the bottom.
It's still not the bottom.
No. There's more to dig. And now we're back at where we started, the lobby to the Western Wall tunnels.